On Hurricane Irma, as we continue to see it churning through the Atlantic. Right now, sustained winds at 110 miles per hour. It has weakened a little bit from yesterday, but it is expected to strengthen once again as it continues to move off towards the west. Now, it's not anywhere near land and certainly not anywhere here near the United States. So this is still at least 8 to 10 days away from it potentially having impacts on us here in Florida and also up the East Coast. But the latest track from the National Hurricane Center shows that it is expected now to remain north of the islands. This would be great news because at that time, as we get towards Wednesday and Thursday of next week, it's going to be expected to be up toward Category 4, anywhere from winds above 130 miles per hour all the way up to 155 miles per hour. So we hope it can avoid the Caribbean islands, but as it continues to move off towards the north and the west, there is the potential for it to have impacts on the United States. It's something our team of meteorologists will continue to keep you posted on, but again, it wouldn't be here for at least another 5 to 10 days. On Hurricane Irma, as we continue to see it churning through the Atlantic. Right now, sustained winds at 110 miles per hour. It has weakened a little bit from yesterday, but it is expected to strengthen once again as it continues to move off towards the west. Now, it's not anywhere near land and certainly not anywhere here near the United States. So this is still at least 8 to 10 days away from it potentially having impacts on us here in Florida and also up the East Coast. But the latest track from the National Hurricane Center shows that it is expected now to remain north of the islands. This would be great news because at that time, as we get towards Wednesday and Thursday of next week, it's going to be expected to be up toward Category 4, anywhere from winds above 130 miles per hour all the way up to 155 miles per hour. So we hope it can avoid the Caribbean islands, but as it continues to move off towards the north and the west, there is the potential for it to have impacts on the United States. It's something our team of meteorologists will continue to keep you posted on, but again, it wouldn't be here for at least another 5 to 10 days.
Breaking news, the unfolding disaster in Texas, the nation's fourth largest city, Houston, brought to its knees by historic flooding. The images of destruction and dislocation are horrifying, but the massive rescue effort, neighbor helping neighbor, is inspiring. Here's ABC News Chief National Correspondent Tom Yamas.
Oh, we need help. We need help right now. They got a whole family out there in the water, and people is drowning.
As the waters continued to rise all around them, Aisha Nelson and her children were desperately waiting to be rescued in Houston.
No, please help us.
They were just one of thousands of families in desperate need of aid.
We don't have no food. I haven't ate in 2 days. No water.
We will show you Aisha and her family's dramatic rescue coming up. Their story of survival, now one of hundreds, in the wake of the strongest hurricane to hit Texas in more than 50 years. It's too early to tell the full scope of the devastation, but what is clear is that Houston will never be the same.
There is a reality that we have to come to grips with, and that is we are just beginning the process of responding to this storm.
The landmark hurricane swept through southeastern Texas, hitting the coast as a Category 4 early Saturday morning. Its winds tearing down power lines and peeling off rooftops. Then, as the storm weakened, it began to settle over the area. And on Sunday, a new threat emerged: catastrophic flooding. So far, at least 6 people have died. And now fears growing that the death toll will rise in the nation's fourth largest city. The National Weather Service predicting that some areas here could see more than 50 inches of rain.
Pull her up! Try to pull her up!
Families fighting to stay above water, floating on air mattresses, piling into canoes and rescue baskets. Some standing on rooftops, waiting for aid. Children wading through the waist-deep waters with the fire department. As of 9 a.m. this morning, more than 75,000 calls have been made to Houston's 911 system.
It's a lake. Cars are stranded. We're not going to get out of here.
Among those at risk, the most vulnerable. This heartbreaking image of a group of senior citizens trapped in an assisted living facility, the water up to their waists, some in wheelchairs. They were later rescued by helicopter and brought to a new location.
The most important thing we have are our lives. And to be able to get through the storm the way we did and save so many lives is nothing short than remarkable.
The flood zone today expanding to more than 50 miles. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has activated all 12,000 members of the National Guard. And Coast Guard teams in the air and on the water have saved more than 2,000 people. Tomorrow, the president will head to Texas.
We are 100% with you. We're praying for you. We're working closely with your leaders and officials. And I will be visiting the impact zone tomorrow to ensure that you're receiving full support and cooperation from the federal government.
The response teams remain so overwhelmed that FEMA is calling for ordinary citizens to get involved in the rescue effort. While Hurricane Harvey may have beaten down buildings and homes, the one thing it didn't seem to topple was the human spirit.
There's some older people that really need to get some medical attention, and we're trying to convince them that the best thing is to get them out.
George Jackson and his brother Alex showed us how they're taking it upon themselves to rescue their neighbors.
Some of the areas we can't see if it's a foot or 10 feet.
We told them about a woman we heard who was trapped. All we had was her name, Yvette, and a possible address, but that's all they needed.
6 people, there's like multiple dogs and cats.
The home completely underwater.
There's definitely more than 2 feet of water in this house, maybe almost 3 feet of water.
The homeowner emotional at the sign of help.
It's our home, and I'm going to start crying and be like an idiot.
It's all right. I mean, I see your house.
I know, we're fine, like we're okay. We're just really ready to get out.
Then Yvette, who had put out her SOS on social media, emerges.
Hi, Yvette, Tom Yamas from ABC News.
Thank you so much.
Both women telling us how quickly the water started building.
It came in at 5:30, and before you know it, it's a foot, then it's 2 feet, and it envelops the house like you cannot imagine.
Outside, they head for the boats with their dogs, cats, even birds, and meet the men who just saved them all.
Oh my God, Jackson Brothers, hello, thank you so much. How many people have you rescued today?
A lot. These guys are the real heroes. These are the guys rescuing everybody today in this neighborhood.
Thank you, Jackson Brothers.
You're welcome.
41-year-old Adam Brackman was also one of the many who answered the call to help.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. You want to go on a boat ride, Kate?
Yeah.
Can I pick you up and carry you?
Yeah.
Brackman drove as far as floodwaters would allow him.
Say bye-bye to your house for a couple days.
See you later, house.
Teaming up with other local volunteers to rescue as many people as possible. Since yesterday, he estimates he's helped more than 70 people and counting.
You help us out here, we're just going to go under this overpass and around the corner.
Today, along the highway, we met a driver who took us to a flooded-out neighborhood where a woman named Sinara was stuck in her home. Her family asking for help on social media.
Did you see a house with the roof collapsed?
We find the home and the part of the roof starting to cave in. Sinara was displaced by Hurricane Katrina, now dealing with Harvey.
I don't know. I've been through so much, so I really don't know. I mean, I'm a war veteran, so this is a bad joke for me right now.
But she refuses to go to the shelter. She doesn't want to leave her pets behind. FEMA estimates more than 30,000 survivors will need to be accommodated in shelters in the coming days. Another major concern, those who are stranded and in ill health. This woman was received by the paramedics and transferred onto a stretcher. Many of those saved will end up here at the George R. Brown Convention Center. Some brought in by dump trucks, others streaming in by the busload. So far, more than 5,000 evacuees have signed in. The Red Cross telling us they're not going to deny anyone who needs help.
First, they go through this security checkpoint, many of them taking with them only what they could carry. Then they walk this way, making their way over to the registration desk where they check in with the Red Cross. From there, they make their way into that room where dry clothes, food, and water is waiting.
My colleague Victor Okendo spoke with Dr. McDivitt, a physician in Houston.
What kinds of injuries are you guys seeing? What are the normal treatments you guys are having to go through?
For the most part, it's relatively minor injuries, cuts and scrapes and bruises and sprains, the kind of thing you would expect as people are evacuating their homes. But there's also serious problems with people that have lost their medications, people that haven't taken their medications for a number of days.
Asma Flowers is seeking refuge here with her 3 children. It took her 3 hours to get here, by boat, by foot, and finally by bus.
Are you relieved to be here now?
Yes, as long as my baby's safe. As long as they're safe, I'm safe.
How long do you think you might be staying here?
Hopefully as soon as the water go down, I can get my family to come get me.
Officials are concerned about Houston's dams overflowing. The Army Corps of Engineers is sending water downstream to relieve pressure on the dams, but they're filling faster than they can be emptied, meaning homes on the backside of the reservoirs are flooding as well. Nearly 3 dozen subdivisions, hundreds of homes at risk. It could be days before the sun shines here again, but tonight, a ray of hope for Aisha Nelson. After spending hours helpless and stranded,
I haven't ate in 2 days, no water.
Aisha and her family were finally rescued.
Today, that water was coming up so fast, my life flashed before my eyes. I wouldn't wish this on nobody.
Safe, but traumatized, witnessing things no one ever should.
Once we seen those people die in that water, it just like took a toll on me.
And while they lost everything they owned, Aisha says she and her family have everything they need.
Material things can be replaced. My life can't. For those people that helped me out, I can't thank them enough. I am so grateful.
For Nightline, I'm Tom Yamas in Houston.
Next, a family in Texas with another child on the way, fleeing their coastal town under mandatory evacuation orders, now returning after the storm to see if their home has been spared.